Why Americans are broke in 2025, the year America crossed an invisible threshold. We stand surrounded by unprecedented wealth, unprecedented technology, unprecedented access to every tool ever created to manage money. And yet, 61% of Americans, nearly 2 out of every 3 people you pass on the street, now live paycheck to paycheck. 58% cannot absorb a single $1,000 emergency without financial collapse. Credit card debt, $1.4 trillion. A number so large it defies comprehension. The cost of groceries has surged 25% in just 5 years. Housing has become the worst affordability crisis in modern American history. This is not a story about personal failure. This is not another lecture about avocado toast or impulse purchases. What you're about to see is supported by data from the Federal Reserve, Pew Research Center, Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies, and MIT's Living Wage Calculator. For the next 30 minutes, we're going beneath the surface, past the headlines, past the political noise, past the viral content designed to distract you. This is the hidden economic crisis. The one even artificial intelligence couldn't prevent. The foundation cracks. To understand why 61% of Americans now live on the edge, we must first understand how the ground beneath them shifted. 1980. The turning point. For 3 decades following World War II, American wages rose in lockstep with productivity. When workers became more efficient, they earned more. When companies profited, workers profited. The contract was simple: work hard, and prosperity follows. Then, something broke. Beginning in the early 80s, wages flatlined. Not slowly, suddenly. While productivity continued its relentless climb upward, paychecks remained frozen in time. According to Pew Research, the American middle class has been shrinking for 5 consecutive decades. Not because people stopped working. Not because they became less productive. The mathematics simply changed. The Federal Reserve published an analysis that should terrify every working American. If wages had grown at the same rate as productivity over the past 40 years, the average worker would earn $20,000 more per year. $20,000. Gone. Vanished into the widening gap between what Americans produce and what they're allowed to keep. But life didn't get cheaper. Housing costs. Up. Healthcare. Up. Education. Exponential. Every necessity required to participate in American society grew more expensive while paychecks stayed frozen. So Americans did the only thing they could. They borrowed. Credit cards. Student loans. Medical debt. Car loans. Payday advances. They filled the gap with promises to pay later, not realizing later would eventually mean forever. This is where the slow-motion collapse began. The housing catastrophe. If there is a single pressure point in the American financial crisis, one place where the abstract becomes devastatingly real, it is housing. Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies doesn't mince words. America is experiencing the worst housing affordability crisis in modern history. Not since the Great Depression has the gap between income and housing costs been this severe. The numbers are staggering. The median home now costs 6.5 times the median annual salary. In major metropolitan areas, 8 to 10 times. Rent consumes between 35 and 50% of monthly income for millions of Americans. In some cities, that number reaches 60%. Let that sink in. More than half of everything you earn, just to keep a roof overhead. But it gets worse. Corporate landlords, private equity firms, real estate investment trusts, algorithmic property management companies, now control hundreds of thousands of single-family homes across America. They don't just own properties. They control supply. They coordinate pricing. They use artificial intelligence to maximize rent extraction down to the dollar. Families aren't competing with other families anymore. They're competing with billion-dollar algorithms designed for one purpose: extract maximum profit from human necessity. MIT's Living Wage Calculator reveals a sobering truth. In nearly every major American city, a single adult now requires $22 to $28 per hour just to cover basic survival. Not to save for retirement. Not to build wealth. Not to take a vacation or help aging parents or send children to college. Just to exist. People are not struggling because they're irresponsible with money. They're struggling because the fundamental mathematics of American life no longer works. The equation is broken. The invisible burden. There is a crisis within the crisis that rarely makes headlines. It doesn't appear on financial statements. It can't be measured in dollars or cents. But it may be the most devastating cost of all. The American Psychological Association reports that 72% of American adults cite money as their primary source of stress. Not health. Not relationships. Not career. Money. And here's what most people don't understand: financial stress doesn't just feel bad. It rewires the brain. When humans experience chronic financial stress, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and rational decision-making, becomes suppressed. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the primitive fear center, takes control. Your brain shifts from thriving mode to survival mode. In survival mode, the brain has one priority: make it through today. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Not next year. Today. This is why behavioral finance researchers have discovered something crucial: people don't make poor financial decisions because they lack willpower or discipline. They make them because a brain under chronic stress is physiologically incapable of prioritizing the future over the present. The credit card debt, the impulse purchase, the payday loan. These aren't moral failures. They're survival responses to a system designed to keep people in permanent stress. And the cruelest part? The financial system knows this. Late fees, overdraft charges, predatory interest rates, deliberately confusing terms and conditions. Every friction point, every penalty, every psychological pressure point, it's not accidental. It's architecture. The system is built to drain attention. And when attention collapses, money follows. The illusion of solution. 2025 brought a promise. Artificial intelligence would solve everything. AI budgeting apps that predict your spending. AI assistants that optimize your investments. AI financial coaches available 24 hours a day. The future of personal finance had arrived. And yet, Americans got broker. Here's the uncomfortable truth that Silicon Valley doesn't want to discuss: AI cannot fix a broken foundation. An AI budgeting app can tell you precisely how you spent your money. It cannot make your rent affordable. An AI investment tool can optimize your portfolio. It cannot raise your wages. An AI debt calculator can show you payoff timelines. It cannot eliminate the predatory interest rates designed to keep you in debt forever. AI is extraordinary at solving optimization problems. But America doesn't have an optimization problem. America has a structural problem. You cannot budget your way out of earning $30,000 while needing $50,000 to survive. You cannot optimize your way out of medical debt from a healthcare system designed to profit from illness. You cannot automate your way out of a housing market captured by corporate landlords with infinite capital. The most advanced AI in history can help you understand the system with perfect clarity. But it cannot change the rules of the game. And here's what makes this particularly insidious: by focusing on individual optimization, AI tools subtly reinforce a dangerous narrative that financial struggle is a personal problem requiring a personal solution. Budget better. Save smarter. Invest wiser. As if the issue is your behavior, rather than a system designed to extract wealth upward regardless of how perfectly you behave. Technology is not the enemy. But it's not the savior either. The crisis is deeper than any app can reach. The real reasons. So, if the crisis isn't about personal failure, and technology can't solve it, what is really happening to American wealth? The answer lies not in individual choices, but in 9 structural forces that have quietly reshaped the American economy over 4 decades. Forces documented by McKinsey, Vanguard, the Federal Reserve, and dozens of independent research institutions. First, wage stagnation versus productivity growth. Worker productivity increased 72% since 1973. Compensation grew just 12%. That $50,000 gap per worker, accumulated over a career, represents the greatest wealth transfer in American history, from labor to capital. Second, corporate consolidation and price control. 80% of major industries in America are now controlled by 4 or fewer companies. Telecommunications, airlines, hospitals, grocery chains. When competition disappears, prices rise without constraint. Consumers have nowhere else to go. Third, algorithmic pricing. Artificial intelligence doesn't just optimize costs for you, it optimizes extraction from you. Dynamic pricing algorithms ensure you pay the maximum you're willing to spend. Surge pricing. Personalized costs. Real-time economic surveillance. Every transaction tracked, every price point calibrated for maximum revenue extraction. Fourth, the healthcare extortion system. Americans spend double what citizens of other developed nations spend on healthcare, for worse outcomes. Medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy. Insurance premiums rise yearly regardless of usage. The system is designed not to heal, but to extract. Fifth, the student loan trap. $1.7 trillion in educational debt. An entire generation was told, borrow for education, earn more, pay it back. But wages didn't rise. Jobs disappeared. Debt remained. Unlike every other form of debt, student loans cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. You carry them to the grave. Sixth, housing as investment vehicle. When homes transformed from places to live into investment assets for global capital, housing stopped being about shelter and became about returns. Corporate investors, foreign wealth, private equity, all competing against families who just need a place to sleep. And they're competing with infinite capital. Seventh, the psychological spending complex. Every surface in American life is now an advertisement. Your phone. Your TV. Your car dashboard. Even your smart refrigerator. We are subjected to 10,000 marketing messages daily, each crafted by behavioral psychologists to exploit cognitive vulnerabilities. Resistance isn't a matter of willpower, it's a matter of being constantly under psychological siege. Eighth, the decline of job security. The social contract of stable employment is dead. Gig economy. Contract work. Part-time schedules. No benefits. No retirement. No stability. Workers are now permanent freelancers in their own lives, with all the risk and none of the reward. Ninth, lifestyle inflation as cultural pressure. Social media transformed spending into performance. What you own signals who you are. The algorithm shows you peers living better lives, creating artificial pressure to spend beyond means just to maintain perceived status. The comparison economy replaced the real economy. These aren't 9 separate problems. They're 9 tentacles of the same system, a system designed over decades to concentrate wealth upward while maintaining the illusion of opportunity. This is not a crisis of character. This is a crisis of structure. And individual solutions cannot solve structural problems. Surviving the next 5 years. Understanding the system doesn't fix the system. But it does something more powerful in the short term, it gives you clarity. And clarity is the beginning of power. If you're watching this, you likely fall into one of 3 categories. You're already struggling and looking for answers. You're stable but sensing the ground shifting beneath you. Or you're researching, trying to understand what's coming. Regardless of where you are, the next 5 years will test American financial resilience in ways we haven't seen in generations. But here's what the data shows. From Fidelity, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and Pew Research, Americans who adapted certain behaviors increased their financial stability by up to 45%, even within broken systems. Not through miracles. Not through getting lucky. Through informed awareness and strategic friction. The first adaptation, automate survival. The brain under stress makes poor decisions. Remove decisions. Automate your savings, even $5 per paycheck. Automate bill payments. Automate investment contributions, no matter how small. When behavior becomes automatic, stress cannot sabotage it. The second adaptation, use technology as intelligence, not salvation. AI tools cannot fix the system, but they can reveal it. Track your spending not to shame yourself, but to understand where the extraction is happening. Where are you being algorithmically manipulated? Where are subscriptions silently draining accounts? Information is power, use AI to see clearly, not to solve magically. The third adaptation, reject lifestyle inflation. The comparison economy is designed to make you spend. Someone else's Instagram life is not your reality. The car, the vacation, the purchase that signals success, none of it matters if it costs your stability. Find one place to spend without guilt and protect everything else. This isn't deprivation, it's strategic survival. The fourth adaptation, build one high-value skill. The employment landscape is brutal, but demand for specific skills remains strong. Data analysis, AI prompt engineering, digital marketing, healthcare specializations, skilled trades. Find one skill the digital economy needs, develop it deeply, and create optionality. You cannot control the job market, but you can control what you offer it. These aren't guarantees. The system is still broken. Wages are still stagnant. Housing is still unaffordable. Healthcare is still extractive. But these behaviors create pockets of control within chaos. You're not fighting for wealth. You're fighting for stability. For the ability to absorb an emergency without collapse. For the psychological space to think beyond tomorrow. For the chance to protect those you love when the system offers no protection. The future will not reward perfection. It will reward awareness. Americans aren't broken because they failed. They're broke because the rules of the game changed, silently, slowly, and without warning. But understanding the truth is the beginning of power. And the future belongs to those who see clearly. Thank you for watching. Take care of your money. And take care of yourself.